Hey guys, Derek here with another video, and today I wanted to talk about um, something that I got going on. Is that I just want to talk about what it's like being a adult in their late 30s and going back to school, taking care of a family, having a home life, having a career, and all this these things going on, and why honestly, with so much more going on, it's actually a lot easier to get things done today for me than it ever was. And what I'm referring to is being a 38-year-old college student. Uh, Over the last couple years, I've I quit my day job. Um, After my firstborn was born, she was born with Down syndrome. She has trisomy 21. And me and my wife, we had a discussion. And to take care of her needs, I quit my job. I was working as a union electrician. I wasn't making as much as my wife, but I was making pretty good money. But at the time, we were kind of unsure of what our daughter's quality of life was going to be. So I chose to be a stay-at-home parent. And over time, I discovered that she was actually pretty healthy. And in the meantime, with raising her at home, my schedule was freed up because I wasn't working. Obviously, I was taking care of a baby. And so my nights and days were very, very long. But we made the decision as a family for me to go back to school, and what that going back to school looked like for me. And I started this all back when I think I was 30. I want to say 34 or 35 years old. Um, it's all been a blur now. My daughter's 3 now, and I started right around when she was born. And yeah, 35. I started a summer school course, or a couple classes. It wasn't a couple classes, a full schedule. But I started, what we did differently than I normally did in the past was, instead of going to campus and going to in-person classes, because of my home life of needing to take care of a newborn with Down syndrome, I did everything online. I did my entire coursework, and it just got the ball rolling. And so I opted out of getting out of the classroom, and in a methodology of called, I think it's called asynchronous education. So essentially, the courses are pre-planned and modularized, and they just give you the coursework, and you kind of just do the assignments more at your leisure. For a community college, in this coursework, there are a few deadlines I have to meet, but essentially there's just the material that I have to read and work on and crunch on, and you're given like a week and a half and 2 weeks to kind of work on these assignments. Again, all kind of at your self pace. There may be classroom material you got to read. There might be videos or like recorded lectures or PowerPoints that you got to reflect on and kind of look through. But what this allowed me to do is make college for me more of my own time, right? So at the time, I was staying up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, taking care of a baby's needs. And so if she was taking a nap, I can crunch on doing some homework. Or if it was early and we put her to bed, I can stay up within an hour or two late after bedtime and get some homework done, right? This freed me up because that would have whole process would have been a nightmare, having to go to a lecture 3 times a week. So completely not doable. So for me, I'm a big believer in asynchronous learning, all online, because of those core things. If you're a person that is just a busy adult working on multiple things at any one point in time during the day, you want to free up your time constraints. Now, screw it. I had a train of thought and I lost it. But that's the way I did it. After the summer school of taking full time course load, I merged that over to go enrolling in Western Governors University. And what I learned there is, man, that amazing college, a way to do it. It's great. What I discovered when I enrolled, what I was able to do was that, again, taking my busy dad life, taking care of a kid as she's growing and developing, what I learned that this college opened the door of taking your experience of life and the things you know and compressing it. So if you're 35, in your late 30s, and you're going back to school, you have life experience. You have things you've studied, you have things you've seen on the media, you have a job, or you paid taxes. You've been doing things for a while now where you can use that experience to amplify getting done with school quicker. So I learned that getting out of the classroom was super helpful, because had I gone to a state college, I would have been tied into a classroom. My days would have been completely locked up because I would have had to been like actually attending classes and lectures and participating to get things moving with school. And that's a huge time sunk, especially when you're trying to take care of a special needs child. You don't have that option. Your back is against a wall, so you need to make something happen for yourself. And what WGU allowed me to do is take my already previous knowledge set and say, I just enrolled in this class an hour ago. Let me take the pre-assessment to see how well I know the material. And if I'm at like a 90%, I'm passable. I went and took the final that day. And if I passed it or not, it didn't really matter. I used what I already knew and used that to leverage up. Okay, so what WGU does differently is it's called competency-based education. So you sign up, and essentially you do 6 months, and they'll assign you typically four classes. And what a lot of people do, standard method, is they'll read through the material, they'll study, they'll spend a lot of time studying, and that's what the school assigns you mentors to work with you. I did that a lot. I would do that. I would speak to the mentors, but most of the time what I did is I just flipped it. So instead of coming into a new course material fresh, I worked backwards. So this is called reverse engineering. So I went, what does the goal of the class look like? What expected knowledge set am I supposed to know? And what am I missing? Okay, so I never started from ground one. I worked backwards. What is a perfect pass looks like, and how much of that perfect state do I measure against? Okay, and so that filling that gap was how I passed courses a lot faster. It shrunk my study time in half, right? Because if you're going, okay, I enrolled, now I'm taking the final, how much of it do I not understand? That's up to the person, okay? And I'm using my prior experience of things I've already learned, okay? So, and then I discovered, all right, well, I'm weak in XYZ areas of the material, and I'm strong in those. I ignore those, and I work on my weaknesses, okay? This is no different than a normal adult behavior. When you have a job and you're the new guy, you kind of get information over flood, and then over time you develop a sense of skills in certain areas. You get good at certain areas, But what do? When our bosses require that we do other things outside of our primary skill sets, we kind of pad those up. We're like, I need to get better at these things because this is what's necessary for the job. Okay? You keep mastery over here on your pocket. You keep developing that, but on the side, you kind of pad those up a little bit as you get better. And that's all I did is I leveled experience and mastery. Okay? So always from a reverse framework. Always. So with WGU, because it's competency-based learning, I went straight to the essays. I went straight to the final tests. And I always wrote and I always educated myself from what I already know first and then pad the gaps later. Okay? And that simple methodology was what really was able to condense my curriculum time of how much time I was actually in school and actually educating myself. Because again, like I said, most people, they always start from new guy. And it's okay to start from new guy if you want to do stuff from a hobby, but if your goal is to better your life and for me having a family, is my education is tied directly to my finances in this sense of getting a job outside of college. I need this done fast, right? I need to get working. I need to better their lives. So why wouldn't I want to try to leverage time and efficiency in my education program? So that's just one thing I thought about when I was doing this coursework, is just always work from end, back, take steps back, and then push up, okay? Super, super helpful framing of thinking. And so once I graduated WGU, I did it I think I did it in 2 years. I did 4 semesters. I think overall it was like 2 years and 2 months from start of WGU to end, because I took a gap in between a semester because my second daughter was born and she was brand new. And again, I was late nights, having 2 children to take care of now. So I took a little bit of a gap to kind of get my schedule figured out, and then I went back to another 2 terms to finish. So I just graduated WGU. I walked in last month, early March. I got my diploma and I got all my cap and gown and pictures. Me and my wife, we flew to Louisiana, and my dad and mom were there with me. They're all super proud, and I teased them. I was like, gosh, you would have never thought I would take 20 years to finish college, would you? And my dad was like, yeah, it's about time. Not that I was actually at college, but I first enrolled in a college in 2006, and here I am, 2026, finally walking. My career's been a bit of a bumpy road, as is for most people. When you're 18, you don't know what you're doing. It's hard. You don't have enough life experience. You don't have enough mentality to understand what your own goals are, what value you bring as a person, what you want as a man or a woman. You haven't figured it out. You have to kind of go through the weeds. You have to just kind of start walking and figure out what destinations you have for yourself, because up until then you have been handheld through this whole process, and it's easy to kind of get lost in the funnel of going to college early when you're not ready for it. And so that was something my honest take is, when I enrolled at 18, I was not emotionally ready or intellectually ready to do what I just did. I didn't have the intention or the vigor to complete school. So I just walked away. I ditched. I just stopped going to class because I just wasn't interested in it. I value education. I still do. I always did. But for me, I was learning more through podcasts, through online, through going to work and stuff like that. And so I just leveraged going to work, using experience to guide that process. But 20 years later, I was like, okay, well, I can see a direct ROI on my investment of going to school. So if I get XYZ things knocked out, I can apply for this X job. And that gave me a instantaneous ROI number to measure against. So it was a lot easier to say, yeah, I'm going back to school. It was a lot easier just because I was like, well, if I finish in half the time, I'll spend half the money that I would, and then that would be a lot easier thing to process and mathematically calculate on the end goal. So that's what I wanted to talk about for a little bit, is just what it's like going back to school. Honestly, going back to school at 38 it's hard. It is, to get the work done, it is hard. But my mind and my discipline and my grit to get things done is a hell of a lot more intense than it was at 18, where things were super easy for me. I didn't have the financial responsibility that I have today at 18. I didn't have the overhead of needing, or I was fresh slate. So I should have been a sponge to get that stuff done then, but my head wasn't in it. It just, college was not interesting and shiny to me at all back then. And I was just going through the motions because socially that is what people did. And I should have had the confidence to say, no, it's not it for me. That is not an option for me. That is not something I want to do. I don't know why people peer pressure you to go, but I should never been in those classrooms. It was just a waste of time and effort for me. I did more harm than actual good, getting pushed into, or socially pushed into that, than if just waiting when you're ready to do it. So that's one tip, I think, as parents to teenagers coming out of high school. If you want to give them powerful tools, encourage them to go to work first before going to college. Encourage them to get good, get a sense of going out there, finding things out for themselves in the actual job market, to see what value let them discover what value they provide for themselves. And when they're struggling, then we can bring them back. Be like, hey, there's this option for you. It's right there. I saved up for it. Let them take a gap year. I think it'll be better off for them in the long run. So yeah, that's just one thing I was rattling through my head today. It was just like thinking about what it's like. Why am I so good at school now versus then? And it's all those things. It's the military, having a reference of hard nights, raising a baby in the middle of the night, having hard lessons, combat deployments. Just those experiences are 1,000 times more intense than just going to class and reading a textbook. Yeah, it can be boring, but when you look at it, apples to apples, like this is nothing anymore. So I had the life experience to say, this is easy. This is a cakewalk. Now I can easily learn the material and just ingest it real fast and get the papers written and just process and burn through it. So hopefully this is encouraging to any of those old farts out there that are on the fence of whether it's valuable for them to go to school or not. Maybe it isn't, maybe it's not. What I did is I just kind of looked at it as a math equation, right? What I did first was make sure that the degree is actually honored at the school, at the place you want to work at, right? If it's not, right, don't do it. if you're like, for instance, like I got my degree because I was trying to become a teacher. And so part of the pipeline of getting pushed through is they check that box for you. And so there was no around it for me. So it's like, okay, I need to get this degree because they're going to check that box. If you're the place you're going after, the work line you're trying to go doesn't care, it doesn't mean anything to them, don't bother, because there's no return on investment. You're going to waste money and there's no financial return on it. So super important to think about. That's what I did. If I pushed back first, said, hey, I don't have a degree, is this a problem? And I got word from them and they're like, it's a problem. Like, all right, I'll make it work. And so that's what I did. Another career that does this is like doctorate engineers, architects, lawyer, nurse, anything medical related, right? If you ain't going into those kind of 5 fields, you may just be okay not going. People think, oh, you need to go to school for software engineer. Like, no, you need certs and to display that you actually can code to become software engineer. So, sales, marketing, art. They just want, if you can verbally show that you have the experience to do that, or show in the portfolio that you can do that, a lot of times those career fields will not, they don't care. So do that equation first before going back to school, especially if you're old fart, right? There's no need to go wasting the money if the job doesn't really require it, right? And then make it a math formula. All right, what am I making now? What does this job make? All right, is spending $30,000 worth the $100,000 job in the end? Right? Does the job pay scale match the input for the prereqs? If not, don't chase it. Don't waste your time. And then look at your life. Look at your quality of life. What loopholes do you need? What, in order to go to school, what things need to happen, right? Do you need extra time to do it? Do asynchronous learning like I did, right? Do you want to just finish it fast and on your own dime and on your own schedule? Do WGU, right? You don't need to go to Stanford University. There's no need to get the prestige factor if you're just looking for the next job and the next pipeline up, right? So make things super simple for you. So hopefully this value creates some value for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I got nothing else to talk about right now. Later.